It was 7:30 p.m. on a quiet Tuesday when Clara sat alone in her apartment, scrolling through her phone with a restless mind. The city outside buzzed softly, a distant hum of traffic and chatter through the half-open window. She had just returned from work, the kind of day where everything felt routine and nothing felt surprising, until her thumb froze on the voice memo app. She didn't remember recording anything today, or yesterday, or really in weeks. But there it was, a file labeled only with the current date. Curious, she tapped it, expecting maybe a forgotten note or a random audio test. The moment it played, Clara's heart stuttered. The voice was soft, familiar, so familiar it made her stomach tighten. It wasn't her voice. She could hear it, clearly, speaking words that seemed stitched straight from her thoughts, the kind of sentences she sometimes whispered when nobody was listening. "Clara, I know you're listening," the voice said. "I've always wanted you to hear this, and now you finally will." The words felt like someone had reached inside her head, drawn out secrets she didn't even know she'd shared. Her fingers hovered over the screen, trembling slightly. She knew, deep down, that this wasn't a prank or a glitch. There was an intimacy in the tone that made her ache. She leaned back against her couch, letting the phone rest on her lap. The room suddenly felt too small, too silent. Every shadow seemed heavier. Every distant sound outside the window felt sharper, like the city itself was listening. Clara couldn't explain it, but she felt a strange pull, a connection to the voice she didn't recognize. Memories she hadn't thought about in years floated to the surface. Afternoons spent in coffee shops, late-night walks when the world felt empty but safe, and that one fleeting moment at a bookstore where someone had smiled at her as if they already knew her. The voice memo continued, describing moments she could swear were her own, memories she hadn't shared with anyone. And yet, the speaker's tone carried a tenderness, a longing that made Clara feel seen in ways she hadn't felt before. Questions tangled in her mind. Who had recorded this? How could someone know her so well? And why did the words stir something warm, almost achingly familiar inside her? Her phone buzzed with a notification, but she ignored it. The voice memo had opened a door she hadn't even realized existed. The apartment felt less like a home and more like a stage, her life somehow suddenly under scrutiny, but in the gentlest way, like someone was watching over her from a distance. Clara replayed the message again. Every syllable, every pause felt deliberate, like a rhythm only she could feel. She closed her eyes and tried to pinpoint the voice, where she had heard it before, but no face, no memory came to mind. Just the feeling, a quiet recognition that wrapped around her chest and wouldn't let go. Then came the line that made her breath hitch, delivered softly but with conviction. "I hope you know, Clara, you are never alone, even when you feel that way." The weight of it made her hands shake. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes. She wasn't sure why this voice could make her feel so exposed, yet so comforted at the same time. It was like hearing a long-lost friend, or maybe something more, a connection that transcended explanation. She stared at her phone, heart pounding, knowing that her life had just shifted in a way she couldn't yet understand. Whoever it was, whoever had reached into her world, had left a breadcrumb trail she was desperate to follow. "Finally," she whispered, almost to herself. "Who are you?" The apartment felt colder now, empty except for the lingering echoes of the voice memo. Clara pressed play one more time, listening carefully to each word, committing every inflection to memory. And that's when she noticed it, a small sound in the background she hadn't heard before, a faint laugh, soft and low, almost playful. It wasn't part of her apartment, wasn't part of the voice memo, yet it felt deliberate, like a signature left behind by the person who knew her so well. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Clara set the phone down, her mind spinning. Whoever had left this message wasn't just nearby, they were closer than she could have imagined. But why now, after all this time? Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a notification. It was a message from an unknown number. Just 4 words. Can we meet soon? Her heart skipped. Clara's hands shook as she stared at the screen. 4 simple words, yet they carried a weight she couldn't ignore. Can we meet soon? Who would send her a message like that? And why now, after the voice memo? She debated calling her best friend, Maddie, but the thought of explaining the strange voice, the laugh in the background, the mysterious text, it all sounded insane. She wasn't ready for anyone else to hear it. Not yet. The city lights outside flickered against the window, and Clara felt the pulse of it all, the quiet heartbeat of a world that seemed just slightly bigger than her own. Her phone buzzed again. Another message, this one with just 1 word, tonight. Her heart skipped a beat. Tonight? That meant hours from now, minutes even. She didn't know who this person was, yet the pull was magnetic. Every fiber of her being urged her to go, to find out. Clara tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a friend playing a prank or some glitch in the phone. But the voice memo, it wasn't a joke. Whoever had left it had heard her, understood her, reached straight to the part of her heart that felt invisible. She paced the small living room, running her hands over the back of the couch as if it could steady her thoughts. Memories from earlier in the day replayed in her mind. The brief encounter with a man at the cafe, his glance lingering a little too long. The way someone had bumped into her on the street and apologized with an oddly familiar smile. Was it him? Could any of this be connected? The evening deepened outside her window. Shadows stretched across the walls, soft but long, like fingers reaching in from another life. She debated staying put, staying safe, but curiosity clawed at her. She couldn't ignore the pull of the voice, the words that felt like they were meant only for her ears. By 7:50 p.m., Clara made a decision. She grabbed her coat, tucked her phone into her pocket, and stepped out into the cool night air. The city smelled of rain that had fallen hours earlier, wet asphalt, and distant coffee from the late-night cafes. Her heartbeat seemed to echo in the empty streets as she walked toward the small park the message had indicated. The park was quiet, almost empty, except for the street lamps casting golden pools of light. She slowed her pace, scanning every shadow, every bench. The world felt suspended, like a delicate pause before something monumental. Then she saw him, a man standing near the fountain, hands in his coat pockets, head slightly bowed. Something in his stance, in the quiet way he waited, made Clara's breath catch. She didn't recognize him fully, not at first, yet every instinct told her she did. As she approached, the man lifted his head. His eyes were soft, familiar, and terrifyingly precise in their recognition. He smiled, not broadly, but in a way that reached her chest and made it ache with longing. "You came," he said, voice low and calm. Clara nodded, words failing her. She didn't understand how she already felt like she knew him, like some invisible thread had pulled them together. I found a voice memo," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "On my phone. I don't know who." He raised a hand, gentle, almost apologetic. "I know," he said. "You weren't supposed to hear it yet, but it seems like it found its way to you anyway." Clara's pulse quickened. "Why me? Who are you?" The man stepped closer, careful not to startle her. "I've been trying to reach you for a long time. I didn't know if you'd listen, I didn't know if you'd understand. But now that you have, I need you to trust me." The weight of his words pressed against her chest. It was impossible, yet every fiber of her being wanted to believe him. There was something undeniable in the way he looked at her, something that whispered of shared moments and hidden truths. Clara glanced down at her phone, then back up. The faint glow from the fountain reflected in his eyes, making them look even more familiar, even more intimate than before. "I don't understand," she said, shaking her head. "How do you know me so well? How could you know all those things you said in the voice memo?" He smiled again, softer this time. "Because I've been listening. I've been watching. Not in a scary way, in a careful way. I've always wanted you to know that you're never truly alone." A shiver ran down her spine, a mixture of fear and something tender she hadn't expected. There was so much she wanted to ask, so much she wanted to demand, but the words caught in her throat. And then he held out his hand, just for a moment, a gesture of trust, of connection. Clara hesitated, heart hammering. Could she step forward and accept it? Or would she step back and lose this mystery forever? She felt the night tighten around her like a delicate promise. The city seemed to hush, holding its breath along with her. Would she reach for his hand? The air between them vibrated with unspoken questions and tentative hope. Clara's hand hovered over his for a long moment. The cool night air felt thick around them, and the fountain's soft trickle sounded impossibly loud. She could feel her heart in her throat, a rapid drumbeat that refused to settle. Finally, she took a tentative step forward. He smiled gently, letting her hand rest in his. It was warm, steady, reassuring. "I promise," he said softly, "you're safe here. You've always been safe." She nodded, though she didn't fully understand. Safe? How could she feel safe with someone she barely knew, yet somehow knew everything about her? The voice memo, the laugh she had heard, the words that had cut straight through her heart, they all pointed to him. "I need to know who you are," she whispered, eyes searching his face. "My name is Elias," he said, his gaze steady. "I've been close for a long time, watching from a distance, waiting for the right moment to reach out. I never wanted to scare you. I only wanted you to know you're not alone." Clara drew in a shaky breath. There was something magnetic about him, something that felt like home, even though it shouldn't. "Why now?" she asked. "Why tonight?" He let go of her hand and took a small step back, hands lifted slightly in a gesture of honesty. "Because the timing is finally right. Because you're ready." Clara frowned. "Ready? I don't even know what's happening." Elias gave a soft, understanding smile. "You will, soon, but I need you to trust me first. You've always felt like something was missing, haven't you?" Her throat tightened. He was right. There had been this emptiness she hadn't been able to name, this quiet ache in the middle of her days. And now, standing here under the glow of the street lamps, she felt it stretch toward him, toward this stranger who somehow knew her better than anyone ever had. She wanted to pull back, to insist that this was crazy, and yet she couldn't. The pull was too strong. Every instinct told her to step closer, to let the mystery unravel. "Okay," she said finally, her voice barely audible. "I'll try to trust you, but you have to explain everything. The voice memo, the laugh, how you know me." Elias nodded, his expression softening. "I will, all of it. But first, we need to walk." Clara followed him through the empty streets, the city quiet around them. Every step felt surreal. She glanced at him sideways, noticing the way the streetlights caught the edges of his hair, the calm determination in his stride. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To a place you'll understand," he said. "A place where I can show you who I really am and why I've been here all along." They walked in silence for a few minutes, the quiet between them heavy, but not uncomfortable. Clara's mind raced, replaying the voice memo, the text messages, every little clue that had led her here. Finally, they arrived at a small, dimly lit cafe on a side street. It was closed, but the door was slightly ajar. Elias pushed it open and gestured for her to enter. Inside, the air smelled faintly of coffee and old paper. A few candles flickered on the tables, casting gentle shadows. It was intimate, quiet, like stepping into a memory she didn't know she had. "Sit," he said, motioning to a small table by the window. Clara did, her fingers gripping the edge. Elias pulled out the chair across from her, then paused. "I need you to listen carefully," he said, leaning forward. "What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but every word is true. The voice memo, it was me. I recorded it months ago, hoping you'd hear it when the time was right." Clara's eyes widened. "You recorded it? But why? How did you know what to say?" He took a deep breath. "Because I know you. Because I've been paying attention. Because I care about you more than I can explain. I couldn't make myself known sooner. I needed you to be ready, to recognize me not just with your eyes, but with your heart." Tears prickled at Clara's eyes. The emotions swirling inside her were confusing. Fear, curiosity, longing, and something tender she didn't have words for. She didn't know if she could believe him, but part of her already did. "And the laugh," she whispered, "in the memo, that was you too?" He nodded, a small, almost shy smile tugging at his lips. "Yes, a little signature, so you'd know it wasn't just random, so you'd feel it was meant for you." Clara swallowed hard. "This is so much. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied softly. "Just know that you're not alone. I'm here. I've always been here, waiting." She looked down at her hands, twisting them in her lap. The reality of the situation pressed against her chest, heavy and tender at the same time. She wanted to step closer, to reach out, but fear and wonder held her in place. The room felt suspended in time. Outside, the world went on, oblivious to the quiet drama unfolding in the little cafe. Inside, every heartbeat seemed louder, every breath more fragile. And then Elias leaned forward, just slightly, his voice a whisper meant only for her. "There's more you need to know, about why I had to stay hidden, about why I couldn't reveal myself before tonight." Clara felt a chill run down her spine. There were secrets still waiting, hidden layers she wasn't prepared for, yet she was drawn irresistibly forward. The air between them thickened with anticipation, every moment stretched, every word unspoken, waiting to fall. Clara sat across from Elias, her mind spinning with 1,000 questions, but also with a strange, quiet understanding. Every word he had said felt heavy with meaning, yet light with hope. She could almost feel the invisible thread connecting them, pulling her closer, even as her chest tightened with uncertainty. "Why stay hidden?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "If you care about me, why wait so long?" Elias leaned back slightly, hands clasped together on the table. "Because sometimes love, or care, isn't about revealing yourself immediately. It's about timing, about knowing when someone is ready to see the truth without fear. And I needed to protect you from the confusion, from the worry, from me, until you were ready to understand. Clara frowned, trying to grasp the logic, the patience, the intensity of what he was saying. Protect me? From what? From feelings you weren't ready to face, he said softly, eyes fixed on hers. I knew you would hear the voice memo eventually. I just didn't know if you'd recognize me, or if it would scare you away. But now you're here. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her coffee cup, even though it was cold. The reality of the night pressed against her like a soft, invisible weight. This man, Elias, knew her. He knew things no one else did. Yet he was here, offering truth and care, but still holding back pieces of himself. I've been thinking about you for so long, he continued, voice low but steady. Sometimes I'd see you from afar, at the cafe, the library, even walking in the park. I never interfered. I never approached. I only watched, hoping for the right moment to show you the truth without frightening you. Clara's breath caught. You were always there? She asked, a mix of disbelief and awe in her tone. All this time? Yes, he said simply. Always. Waiting. Hoping you'd notice the little things. Hoping you'd feel me even when I wasn't near. And now you've found the voice lemo. And now, here you are. Her heart felt like it might burst from the mixture of relief, longing, and confusion. She had felt lonely sometimes, as though life had a secret she couldn't uncover. And suddenly, here he was, the missing piece she didn't even know she'd been searching for. Clara, Elias said, leaning forward slightly, I need you to understand something. The voice memo, it was just the beginning. There's more. I need to tell you why I had to remain unseen, why I couldn't reach out sooner. You deserve to know everything. She nodded, swallowing hard. Every instinct urged her to listen, to trust, to take this leap. And part of her, the part that had felt inexplicably drawn to this man for so long, wanted to hear it all, no matter how unbelievable. Elias took a deep breath. It's complicated, but the short version is that I had to watch from a distance to protect you, but also to protect myself. I've carried feelings for you longer than I thought possible, feelings I didn't dare admit, even to myself, and I knew if I approached too soon, it would ruin everything. Clara blinked, trying to process it. Feelings? For me? But how? He smiled softly, almost sadly. Because you're unlike anyone I've ever known. You see the world differently. You care deeply. You notice the little details. Even when you're quiet, you're full of life. And I couldn't let those feelings interfere with your life until you were ready to understand mine. Her chest tightened. She had always thought of love as something sudden, something easy to see. But this was patient, deliberate, almost sacred in its restraint. Clara, he continued, voice barely above a whisper, there's one more thing I need to tell you. It's why the voice memo had to reach you the way it did, why I couldn't just come and speak. It's a promise, a secret I've kept so long it feels impossible to admit. Her eyes widened, heart pounding. The room seemed smaller now, the flicker of candlelight casting shadows on his face that made him look almost ethereal. Promise? She echoed, her voice trembling. What promise? He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folded note. He placed it on the table in front of her. Read this when you're ready, he said softly. It explains everything you need to know about why I stayed hidden, why I recorded the voice memo, and why I've been waiting for you all this time." Clara hesitated for a moment, fingers hovering over the note. Something told her that opening it would change everything. She could feel the weight of it, the gravity of the emotions it carried. Her heart beat faster, caught between fear and anticipation. She wanted to rip it open immediately, to uncover the truths it promised. And yet, a small part of her feared what she might find, what secrets Elias had kept, what confessions he had written down in private. Finally, with trembling hands, she unfolded the note. The first line made her catch her breath. The words were simple, yet heavy, written in a handwriting that seemed to pulse with care and intimacy. Clara realized that what she had been feeling all along, the familiarity of the voice, the tender laugh, the quiet attention, was only the surface. Beneath it lay a deeper truth, a connection neither of them could have ignored any longer. And as she read the second line, her world tilted. The words painted a story of longing, of patience, and of a bond that had silently grown stronger with every day they hadn't yet met. Her chest tightened, her eyes blurred, and she looked up at Elias. He waited, quiet, steady, as though every moment they had shared before this one had been leading here. And then she realized the note wasn't just a secret. It was a key to everything she had been unknowingly searching for. Clara's hands trembled as she held the note, reading the words over and over. Each line was filled with the kind of quiet honesty that left her breathless. The words spoke of years spent observing her, caring for her, and waiting for the right moment to make himself known. It was intimate, emotional, and utterly sincere, a message that no one else could have written. She looked up at Elias, whose eyes were fixed on hers, steady and patient. There was no pretense in his gaze, no hidden agenda, only a raw, undeniable truth. "It's all real," he said softly, as if reading her thoughts. "Everything in the memo, the messages, this note, it's all because of how I feel about you, how I've always felt." Clara blinked, tears threatening to spill. It was overwhelming, the way her heart seemed to understand him, even when her mind raced with questions. She could feel the thread connecting them, the invisible bond that had drawn her here tonight. "Elias," she whispered, voice barely audible. "I don't know what to say. All of this, it's a lot." "I know," he said, leaning slightly closer. "And I don't expect you to have all the answers tonight. I just needed you to know the truth. I needed you to hear my heart in the only way I knew how to share it without frightening you." Clara took a deep breath, feeling the tension in her chest slowly ease. The fear, the confusion, the uncertainty, all of it softened under the warmth of his presence. Somehow, she knew that this man, this mysterious voice she had once only heard, had been a part of her life longer than she realized. "You made me feel seen," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Even when I didn't know it was possible, even when I thought I was alone." Elias smiled, a gentle curve of his lips that made her heart ache. "You were never alone, not really. I was always here, even if you couldn't see me. And now, you found me." The quiet of the cafe wrapped around them like a protective blanket. Outside, the city hummed on, oblivious to the quiet drama that had unfolded within the small, dimly lit room. Inside, time seemed suspended, held together by the fragile threads of trust, longing, and recognition. Clara folded the note carefully, her hands no longer trembling but steady with resolve. She looked into Elias's eyes and felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Hope that the emptiness she had carried could finally be filled. Hope that the connection she had sensed all along was real. "I want to understand everything," she said finally. "I want to know why you stayed hidden, why you waited, why me." Elias nodded, relief and warmth flickering across his face. "I'll tell you everything," he said softly, "and I'll be patient. Because this, us, it's worth the time, worth the care, worth every moment of waiting." Clara felt the tension in her shoulders ease for the first time in months. She realized that the mystery, the strange pull of the voice memo, the unknown messages, they had all led her here, to this moment, to him. They sat together, talking quietly, their voices blending with the soft flicker of candlelight. Stories were shared, laughter floated in the air, and the weight of the past months, the loneliness, the longing, the unanswered questions, began to lift. And though the night outside continued its quiet rhythm, Clara felt as if a new chapter had begun inside her, a chapter filled with understanding, trust, and the fragile, beautiful promise of something real, something lasting. The voice memo, the mysterious text, the hidden note, it had all been a path leading her to this connection, to Elias, to the truth she had always been searching for without knowing it. She reached across the table, taking his hand gently in hers. "I think I've been waiting for this too," she whispered. He squeezed her hand softly, eyes reflecting the flicker of candlelight. "And now you have it," he said, "every piece of it, finally." Clara smiled, a soft, hopeful smile. For the first time in a long while, the ache of loneliness was gone, replaced by a quiet warmth that pulsed with possibility. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew this: she wasn't alone anymore. Outside, the city lights glimmered like stars scattered across the streets. Inside, two hearts had found a quiet, unspoken understanding, a bond that had started with a mysterious voice memo, a laugh in the dark, and a note that revealed the truth. And for Clara, that was enough. The night felt endless and tender, a gentle promise that sometimes the most unexpected connections are the ones that change everything.